Thank you for joining ACRL's Distance Learning Section discussion group for today's roundtable discussion where we're going to be talking all about videos. So my name is Lindsay Wharton and I am the co-chair of this committee with Kristen Heathcock. The roundtable discussion series was initiated by the Distance Learning Section Instruction Committee last month. And the goal of these sessions is to create a community and a place for engaging discussion between colleagues involved in distance library services on a variety of relevant topics. The distance learning section hopes to make these informal discussions a regular event, so be on the lookout for the next roundtable discussion, which should happen sometime early next year. We will begin this session by breaking up participants into breakout rooms with a committee member from the discussion group serving as the discussion leader. We will spend 30 minutes in our breakout rooms talking all about videos, from assessment to engagement to favorite technology and software. So please participate in these discussions using either the chat box or we're going to provide you a link to a Google Doc. And so definitely feel free to add to that Google Doc as the discussion goes along as well. And even if you're new to making library videos and tutorials or you have questions, feel free as well to participate in any way. At the conclusion of the breakout sessions, we will all return to the main room and the discussion leader from each breakout room will share what was discussed. We will have about 30 minutes for this portion of the discussion. So any information that is generated within the breakout sessions will be saved on a Google Doc. So we're going to take all the Google Docs that our breakout sessions have and we're going to make them into one big Google Doc. And this will be made available along with the recorded session on the DLS website and shared with registered participants. At the conclusion of this session, please complete our evaluation form and let us know what you thought of this event. So now I'm going to move everyone to breakout rooms, and I hope that you have a happy discussion. And it sounded like I heard a bunch of awesome discussions closing. So welcome back. I hope everyone had really productive conversations. I look forward to hearing back from each of the discussion leaders. So Jill, would you mind starting us off and talk about what your group talked about?
Sure. You can hear me, right?
Yep, sure can.
Okay, great. Okay, so my group talked about what makes a video student-friendly. We talked about the length of the videos, and our suggestion was 2 to 5 minutes max. We would not want to include any irrelevant information, so keep it pretty simple and keep it focused. We wouldn't want to include any jargon that students won't understand, and we want to enable comments on the videos to get feedback from students. We like the idea of videos for demonstrating concepts, but we didn't think they would necessarily be great for step-by-step instructions, and we had a longer discussion about that later. And we thought maybe students or student workers could participate in creating the videos. And a really important point is that videos need to be easy to find and they need to be available at the point of need.
Awesome. Sounds like a really bunch of great ideas and tips for making good videos. I love the idea of student workers making videos because they could do a bunch of funny stuff. Kristen, would you mind sharing that?
Sure. I have 2 questions, and then we skipped down to the bottom and did one of the pink questions, so I thought I could share that one as well. Let's see. So our first question, we talked about how, or do we find that some ideas or topics lend themselves better to videos than others? And unlike Jill's group, we talked about many of our videos really were for step-by-step processes, simple things like how to use and or not effectively. And then we've made some videos for classes on our tutorial page, but we make a lot of those quick and dirty, unprofessional videos that we send out to students really at that point of need to solve a very specific problem. And then we had some where we talked about some videos really need to be made for helping us with navigation when we use these complicated databases. An example was Simmons Simply Map. We could break it down into small 5-minute videos in a series, but for some of those complicated things, students at a distance really might need some extra help using these really complicated things. And then we also discussed how we can ensure that videos are engaging, and how do we know students don't just let them play while they're doing other things. And a couple of us in the group said, you know, we're really, if we get bored making the videos, our students are going to get bored watching the videos. So it's really important that we keep them short and we keep them entertaining. Let's see, we shared some experiences we've had with some videos that were really way too long, and some videos that we wished were a little bit longer, but instead they kept stopping us and asking us a bunch of questions. And sometimes that's useful, and sometimes it's really like, just let me watch the video. So it depends on the topic. And then we really do a lot of hoping that our students are interested enough in the topic to pay attention. We're hoping that the topic of the video really is relevant to what they need to do at that immediate moment or that immediate assignment. Let's see. And then our fun question, we talked about how we keep our videos up to date. Do we have a schedule for reviewing and revising them? And it sounds like most people have a repository of videos they try to keep in a single location so they're easy to access. And they try, if they have time, to review them in the summer. Sometimes they do it themselves, or they have student workers go through them. But that also, reviewing them regularly and housing them in a single place, makes it easy for faculty members to link to them and ensure that they're always linking to current content. So instead of them copying this irrelevant video now, if we link to it and provide them with the link, it really helps them. And we really think, we didn't talk, it wasn't one of our questions, but we really talked about the importance of getting more information about accessibility issues. Such a big need for us to have, I don't know, just ideas or best practices for working about it with accessibility. But I know someone else is going to talk about that as well. So that was
awesome. Sounds like you guys had a lot of great discussion. So Dan, would you mind going next? Hey Dan, are you there? Do you want to go next, or should we skip you?
Oh, nope, sorry. Apologize. I was muted and I was speaking. No, I was saying that one of the things that we discussed was speaking with professors beforehand, especially those professors whose we're going to be embedding videos into their courses, like their learning management systems and whatnot. And speaking with them and discussing what they believe students might need. Also, quizzing students was another way, getting information from them on what other sort of things they want to, they want to know more about, and general information about things that we've gotten as far as reference questions, and we continue to get reference questions on very frequently. Were ways that we thought to keep them relevant. And one thing that came up as well, even though it's not necessarily as much about relevance, it was about keeping videos short, because as relevant as your video is, if it goes too long and it's not interesting to folks, then they will bow out of it.
Definitely. I think with a lot of our discussion questions that the answer, keeping it short, would probably be a pretty applicable answer. So Tricia, would you mind?
Sure, no problem. Interestingly, our group talked about video duration and how the content can really drive that. That for some, so we had one person who their group had researched and established a maximum time frame for about 7 minutes. And that was for, and that might have been broken up as a part of a series of, to create one longer video, but so that it would break up a longer video into smaller chunks. And then for those that are highly conceptual, that they could go from up to 10 or 15 minutes because you're trying to get across a concept. And the idea was that seems like, if I'm remembering correctly, that many of their experience with distance students was that the students really wanted to understand the how of how things work, so they were willing to last a little bit longer on those videos. A very integral part of that, however, was to have timestamp bookmarks so that students can jump to content that they need, so that they may be able to go back and repeat a step, or go repeat a step several times. And then some people were doing live videos, and those were up to 30-minute sessions because they were interacting and doing videos with a group. But definitely breaking up large topics into a series of small topics was highly recommended. And that point of need videos would change that time frame dramatically because you're just trying to get an individual point across. And that's pretty much it.
Cool. Thanks for that information. I love the idea of doing live videos. I would want to learn more about that. Laureen, would you mind going next?
Sure, I can go next. So we talked about what technology or programs people are using for video creation. Looks like we had several people in my group who were using Panopto, which, speaking of live videos, one of the nice things with that is that you can be live and have it archive it at the same time. And the archive version, I think, would be editable. So there's a couple nice options there. A couple people using Jing, several using Camtasia. Powtoon was another that was mentioned. Snagit came up, which I should note, TechSmith is having a Cyber Monday sale, 20% off of Snagit and Camtasia. So if they decided to extend it and you're interested, someone was thoughtful enough to share that deal with everybody in my group. Premiere Pro, Kaltura's CaptureSpace, and Screencast-O-Matic were also mentioned. Lastly, there was a resource called Filmora that is free to try out, but the video will have a watermark unless you purchase it, though they said that it's only about $50. I'm going to throw a link to that into the chat box. And that person said that it reminds them of Instagram. I'm not going to speak to the other questions that we had. We certainly got through some really good ones, but I do want to share that someone in my group was really thoughtful and added in a citation to an article that really informed her about what she read. So I'm sure several others in this group have read it, but if they haven't, or they would, maybe like a refresher on it, it's a good reminder of a good article worth sharing amongst ourselves.
Awesome. Love the information sharing and the article sharing and discussion, journal club. We're all sorts of things here. So for my group, we covered 2 questions, and the first one was actually discussing accessibility requirements and what accessibility requirements do you consider when making videos, and how can we make videos that are accessible to the majority of students. And so we really talked mainly at the beginning about captioning and offering transcriptions of your videos. And so while one of our members of our group had just started using a captioning service, which does a better job than YouTube's automatic captioning, which had been used by other people in the group as well, there are options out there for purchasing, but she actually had been doing research on accessibility lately, and so she had a lot of great ideas, like how we don't provide descriptive transcripts of our videos. While we may provide the words and what we're saying, we're not actually talking about what's happening in the videos or giving deeper meaning. And I just love that. I think that's something really important. Considering things like color contrast, and even started captioning, providing transcripts even for audio-only files. And so, YouTube is a great option because they do offer some accessibility functions right through the right through uploading to YouTube. And one of the things we talked about in our accessibility conversation was just actually we talked about it on the next one, but it really goes in just the amount of time that it takes to create videos and then consider these things, like something about how do you make this video accessible now. And so we also talked about if you embed the videos in a course management system, they're more likely to be accessible, and so embedding them that way. But providing transcripts and captioning was really something that we kept coming back to. And also we talked about where you're embedding your videos, whether it's on a website, on your LibGuides, and always thinking about whether those sites are also accessible and easy to use, and having all of those considerations moving forward. So then we moved on and talked about assessment. And so do we assess our videos and tutorials, and if so, what assessment practices do we find useful? But so a lot of us started out by saying it's kind of hard to think about what formal assessment we use, talking about anecdotal evidence, speaking to faculty, to students about how they interpreted the video, whether they found the video useful. Using online quizzes after the video is a great way to have assessment, and to think about once again that there needs to be surveys for tutorials or short assessment. And so that was mainly, it's really assessment and accessibility, two of the main topics we talked about in our group. We all agreed that these just take so much time, and trying to find the time to devote to planning an assessment project, or thinking about planning the accessibility, and so our role there and how much time it takes. And I thought that was really interesting, because just trying to use the views on YouTube, that's probably not going to be a great form of assessment. Trying to think deeper about assessment and how it's something that we really need to work on more, research more, and talk about more as the distance library community. Does anyone have anything else they want to add, or any other neat pieces of information or articles or links or anything else in the chat, or any of the leaders want to?
I think people caught pretty much everything our group talked about. So we also had some links that will then be shared with everyone, videos that have been poached for LibGuides in classrooms. So happily that will all be shared.
Great. So yeah, one thing, we're going to take all of these great Google Docs that we created as groups, and we are going to combine them into one big collaborative document and share with all the registered participants and post the DLS website. So you will have access, and you can use this as a reference moving forward and thinking about videos. And so I'd like to thank you all for attending and participating in the roundtable discussion today. I think some really useful ideas have been generated here, and we'll be sure to share this information in a forum that will allow all of us and the many distance librarians who can join us today to continue sharing ideas. I also want to thank all of the members of the DLS discussion group for their work in planning this session. We would like to continue providing this kind of programming if people think it's worthwhile for us to do so. In order to determine that, it's very important for us to hear from you about what you experienced today. So we ask that each participant please complete our feedback survey, which is on the link right there. So please put that in your browser and tell us what you thought. So thank you again for your participation, and I hope everyone has a great afternoon.